The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. We'll just wait a few more minutes to let a couple more people join, and then we'll get started. So as we just had someone else join, as I just said, we'll just give it another minute to see if anybody else is going to join, then we'll get going.
Richard, I just made you presenter.
Thank you. Okay, that's 10:02. I think we should get started. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on GW Apps and our no-code development platform. So we're going to cover how easy it is to build applications on a no-code development platform and how enabling citizen development can be very, very useful to your organization. And obviously, we're going to give you a demonstration of how simple it is to build applications and some of the features, obviously not going too deep, but give you a feel for GW Apps. So even in organizations with a good IT infrastructure, there are still areas, departments within the organization that have outdated processes, things that either aren't being managed properly by IT or maybe being managed by spreadsheets and the like still, or if you're in a smaller organization, maybe you just don't have enough IT support, and there's bound to be some business processes that you really should automate and improve. So you could build custom apps, but that's time-consuming and expensive. You could buy a different SaaS solution for each of your sort of major functional areas that you want to automate. There are low-code development platforms, things like AppMaker, Mendix, ServiceNow, and the like, and those can greatly increase the speed with which developers can build applications. So they're really good, but you still actually need developers and a lot of IT support to work with them. Whereas a no-code platform like GW Apps allows what we call citizen developers. It allows slightly tech-savvy people in the line of business to automate their own processes. So, you know, if you're the kind of person who can build a decent spreadsheet or, you know, build a nice little website with one of those simple tools like Wix or WordPress, and you understand your business process, then you can become a citizen developer and you can build the application to automate your business processes and the business that you manage. You can do that yourself, and that's the benefit of a no-code platform. So obviously, if you're going to build an application, we have to have tools to help you do that. So we've got a form builder. We've got tools to help you add workflow, detailed management of security, which is one of the problems if you're trying to manage things on spreadsheets. You just can't really do security. It doesn't allow you to do that. And obviously build reports and views, ways to find and display the information that you've built in your application. One of the advantages of a no-code platform is that it allows citizen developers. So that means you don't have to hire an expensive developer. Even if you've got an in-house resource, their charge back to your department is quite expensive. But with a no-code platform, you can automate that process yourself. And because you don't have to write any code, you just drag, drop, and configure, you can also do it quite quickly. Obviously, there's a little learning curve, but once you get up to speed, you can build things very quickly. So now, applications that normally IT wouldn't touch because there isn't an ROI, there's just no meaningful return on the cost that it would take. If you'd reduce the time and the cost enough, then all those little business processes that aren't being managed properly now can be justified. Okay, so before I move on to the demonstration, in your GoToWebinar sort of client thing, you've got the ability there to ask questions. So feel free to type in a question. I'll try and address them as I see them, or if I think they're better answered a little bit at the end. But I will get to any of your questions. So feel free to throw out a question whenever it occurs to you. Okay, so let's have a look at GW Apps. So when you log into GW Apps, you're taken here. This is the applications dashboard. And because it's a SaaS solution, you're in the cloud, you're in our bit of the cloud, but you only get to see the applications that you personally have access to. So nobody in your organization will be able to see anybody else's stuff, and you only get to see the applications that you've been given access to. So again, good security. This actually gives you a good idea of both the kind of applications that we think work well in our platform, but also some of the templates that we have. We have pre-built templates that let you sort of jumpstart by starting with an already working app. So things like contract management, customer service, asset management, employee onboarding, expense reports, financial transaction reporting, time tracker, IT service requests, things like that. Those are a good idea of the kinds of business process things that work really well on our platform. Okay, so I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can build an application. So you can build it from scratch, you can build it by importing data and have the system build the beginnings of the app for you, or you can start from one of our templates. That's what I'm going to do first. And I'm going to just pick the asset management application. I get to change its name if I want to. I'm just going to stick a couple of A's at the beginning. That'll make sure it stays in the top left corner of my dashboard to make it easy to find. And then I hit create. So it's already created the application, obviously by copying that template. And we've even set up a little page here that gives you some basic information about the application and how to go about setting up its security, what features it has. So right off the bat, I have here, I can start putting in information about my assets. When I acquired my asset, what kind of asset it is, things like that. Okay. The asset categories and the locations, those are things that we look up from lists. Normally the templates have a couple of samples in there. That's why I was trying to pick. So I'm just going to put in a site name. So I happen to live in Brea, so I'm going to say one of the sites is Brea, and an asset type I'm just going to put in computer. Then if I go back to that, oh, sorry, those were sorted by ones that were already in service. So now I've got asset categories and I've got locations. So it's very easy then for someone to manage this application and put in all the different locations you have and the categories that you want to organize your assets by. And then I can place my asset in service. So this one's showing, look, I have one asset in Brea. So pretty immediately I have an application that I can work with. But obviously this is a no-code development platform. So while you could use this asset management application just as it is, I can also come in here and decide, you know what, I don't think I want the date field there. I'd like it there, and I'd like the asset ID tag over here. And by the way, I want an extra text field over here for, I don't know, manager's name, or whatever it is you want to say. So if I just save that, and if I go back to the application and launch my my little record. So here's my new manager name. I typed it wrong, and you can see my fields have moved around. So while the templates are applications you could use exactly as they are, one of the advantages of being on a no-code development platform is if that template doesn't quite match your workflow process and you know, things like that, then you can change it however you like. Alfonso asked a question, can I create my own templates that users within my company can use? Just at the moment, no, you cannot create your own templates. That's something we have on the sort of long-term feature list. We've got a long list of features we're working to add. We'll always come up with ideas. But if you have an application that you want to keep using, so you've built a sample application, you can make, or we can make copies of that application for you very easily. So if there was a standard sort of application you wanted to have multiple copies of, then that's something we can easily do for you. And possibly, you know, maybe we can have customer specific custom templates at some point in the future. But you know, as I said, if you have an application and you want multiple versions of it, we can do that for you very, very quickly. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the dashboard. So that's building an application from a template. So this time I'm going to build an application from importing a CSV file. So here's my little CSV file. So I've got 6 people, some information about them and their department, start date, and company email, etc. So I've got Janet and Hank and Joe, just to show you what my data is. Clearly not my best typing day. So I can pick an icon. How about a snowflake, and let's make it sort of snowflakey colored. Okay. So then I just point at the CSV file that has the information I want to import. And I tell it, yes, the first row of my CSV file does have labels in it. Then it reads the file and says, okay, I'm going to create fields with these names. And by the way, I read all the information in each of those columns, and I tried to work out what kind of information it was. So it says these two are text, and it correctly got that the personal email column was full of addresses and the start date column was full of dates. And it says how many in each column of which kind of data, so you can just check that it's making good decisions. Yep, that looks good. So this is saying, this is what I'm planning to do. And by the way, I don't have any records or any rows in my CSV file where the data type that I picked is going to cause a problem with any of my fields. So you know that's going to be okay. So let me do start migration. Somebody else had a question too. Bruce, we use Backupify to back up G Suite and would like the application to get backed up like anything stored in Google Drive. Or would this get backed up and stored in another location to prevent against intentional or unintentional changes or deletions? The information is on the Google Cloud, and it is backed up regularly. I don't remember exactly how often it's backed up, but it's not in Drive, so you can't back up Drive and back up your applications in GW Apps. But it is on the Google Cloud and is backed up as part of standard Google Cloud procedure. Yeah, so we can and have restored from backup before. So if you need more details on how often, we can pull in one of the development team and answer that at a later date if that's a question you wanted more details on. Okay, so it built the application. So I'm just going to click on View Records. So it built a view, so which is a little summary table. And look, here's Janet and Hank and Joe. And if I open up one of the records to edit, it created all the relevant fields. You can see this is in fact a date field. So we have a starter version of the application. And again, that's just a starter. If I decide, you know what, I don't like the layout of my form, then I can say, for example, well, let's make it 2 columns. So we'll put last name and first name and personal email over there and position title over there and so on. So I'll just save that. And then if I go back to my application, see, now it's laid out 2 column. Was that another question? Okay. can I export my data and back it up myself, like in Google Sheets or Excel? And the answer to that is yes. I'll show you where that is in a minute when I go to a finished app to show you some of the other features, but yes. So the last thing, I can build something from scratch. So if I don't happen to have, you know, a CSV, you know, it's a new thing, I don't have existing data. So it created me a sample form because, you know, you have to have a form. All business applications need forms because that's how we process information. And now I just decide, okay, what fields do I want and how do I want them laid out? We start off with a sort of single column, but if I want it laid out a mix of 2 and 3 columns or 4 columns, I can just drag down the column things there. And then here I got a palette of all of the different kinds of fields that I can drag and drop. So I can put a text field here, I can put a number field there, I can put a rich text field, which is like a little embedded word processor with fonts and tables and all in image embedding. You know, I can put a date field there, and I'll just put a list selection there. So, okay, I don't want my text field called text field, so I'll say I want it called what, and I want to make it required. That way, the user has to put a value in there in order to be able to submit the record. So my number field maybe should be called how many. Date field I'll call when. Now, if I wanted to put some sort of was the thing done. So each field can also have sort of suggestive help text. Now, obviously, that's the basics of my fields, but there's probably other things that I might want to set. So I just click on my little properties thing there, and I get a little panel on the right-hand side, and there I can set additional things. So I can put in a custom message to go with the required. I can put in a default value. So every record that was created in my what field, it would start with the text a thing in there. So, you know, and for things like for date fields, the default value you can compute. So you can say, you know, make it today's date or make it a week from today or a specific date, those kinds of things. All the fields have validation. So you can say like minimum number of characters for text, minimum number of text, minimum maximum dates, those kind of things. So you can help ensure that the users put in the right kind of information. Most fields have sort of formatting options and things. So, you know, dates, you can say whether you want big long style dates or little, you know, XY/YY/DD, those kinds of things. So again, all you're doing, you drag and drop a field from, sorry, I have to move the little control for the GoToWebinar. So you just drag and drop fields onto your form and then configure their properties. Now, obviously, if you've got lots of fields, that may take you a little time, but there's nothing inherently complicated. If you understand your business process, you'll understand what information you want to track, because either you're already doing it in a spreadsheet or you've got a paper-based form, and you can just translate that into a form, lay it out how you like. There's lots of more advanced things, like you can make fields hide at different times and things like that, but I think that's a good enough taste for now. So just some other kinds of, oh, sorry, the list selection. So that's a sort of pick from list. And the one thing I wanted to show you here was I can type in the options explicitly. So, you know, that was supposed to be cat, by the way. So again, not a good typing day. So cat, dog, etc. Or I can say, no, I'd like you to look up the information from an existing application. So we can look at the information up from, for example, the department's forms on my contract management. So say the contract management form was the first application we built, and in there we put a list of departments. Well, when I build other apps, and I also want a lookup list of departments, I don't want to have to keep adding, you know, managing that same list of departments. Well, in GW Apps, you can just look up that information from that other application. And obviously, you could, if you wanted to, even create a sort of central library application where, you know, you keep standard lists of locations, divisions, VPs, you know, whatever information you want. So here, this sales and this operation, it just looked that up from another application. Obviously, that other application has to give you permission, so there's still security. But generally speaking, there are often times when we have the same kind of information used in multiple applications, so we only have to ever put it in once. Okay, I'm going to go to a more complicated finished application to show you some of the other features, including exporting information. So this is a view, just a different style than the view we saw in the other application. This one, it's grouped, which just means you can drill down. You can have lots and lots of records, but you can group them together under sensible headings, like this is time worked by consultants, sorted by consultant. And then if you open that out, it's by month, by year, then month, and then by the client project. So you can drill down, and you'll notice I've got totaling at each level in my view. So there's 4,000 hours total. Richard has 500. This year there's 300. That year there's 200. That month there's 64. So you can build these views that also do useful, meaningful business reporting for you. You can also have your views not have that categorization. I've forgotten which one of these is flat now. I think actually we've made them all. There we go. That one's a flat view. So you can have it as a flat sort of spreadsheety style one if you want. But at your view, to answer somebody's question, you can click on here and you can export. If you just pick the straight export, it exports it to a CSV file, or you can export it to a Google Sheet. And it will export all the information in this view with all the columns. So normally you build a view to only have a sort of sensible number of columns you can fit on the screen. But if you wanted one to be able to export all the information, all you'd have to do is build an export view and just put in all the columns for all the fields you want to export, and just go to that view and just click on, blah, export. What you can also do, for example, all the views have dynamic filtering in. So for example, I can say I would like the billing month to be January, apply that. So now my view only contains January information. See, it's gone from 4,000 to 400 odd. And now if I export the view, it'll only export these records that I have in the view at the moment, i.e. the filtered ones. So you can combine filtering with exporting to pull out, explicit subsets of your information if you wanted to do that for some reason. Let me clear the filter and let me see what the other question is. Can I make these views visible only to managers? Yes. So let me go and look at some of the sort of features of the app. So everything has security. So for example, let me just go into the form. So we have a security tab, and I have, if I want to, down to individual field level control. So I can hide a field and make it only read only, those kinds of things. So I get to field level control in my forms and then the data that comes from them. And then in my views, I have a setting on the view to say whether everyone in the app can see it or just specific roles. And roles are, kind of like groups, or, roles is a common term in applications. So also here in the application design, we have where we build the roles and we say which people are in each role. So basically the role is a pseudonym for a group of people, and that role can then either see or not see certain views, be able to see or not see, or edit or not edit certain sections of a form, or even all the see certain kinds of records at all. So it's very easy to manage so that people only see what they should do, can only sort of take the actions they should be allowed to, and can only see the reports and the views that they should. When you build a form, you can add workflow, and as part of the workflow, you can send email notifications. And one of the nice things is, in the email notifications, you can include the value of the field. So when somebody, for example, submits a request, you might want to send an email to the group, the approvers role, the people who get to approve the record, saying, by the way, this record's been added. Could you please, when you have time, go and review it for us? And you can include some basic information from the record along with text. So when this record got sent, the name of the client on the particular record the person clicked submit on will be put here, and the client's legal name there, and address one there. So you can combine text and, in the case of the body, images and bullet point lists and all the nice formatting stuff. But you can also include values from the records. And also, if the form has this form doesn't have it, you can also explicitly send the email to somebody named in the record. So if you had a field for approving manager, then you could make sure this email went not to the whole group of approvers, but to that one specific person. So we can send informative and specific emails out as part of our workflow. We can also create PDF reports. The nice thing about this is you can insert tables and the like, and really lay it out, and lay it out in a different way than the form is laid out. So obviously, when you lay out a form, it's for ease of data entry, but then there may be a different group of people who want to see the information, but you want to show it in a different way. So maybe you want to create a printable invoice or something that's a bit more summary and laid out in a different way. Well, this PDF sort of template builder allows you to do that. And then as part of the workflow, you can spawn off one of these PDFs and have that. Showed you Pages, that help page that came up when I first built the application. Pages also have some sort of basic charting ability. In a few weeks, we'll have much improved charting ability on Pages, so then you'll be able to build meaningful dashboards out of them. So you'll be able to see how many records are at each stage, and chart numerical information from your records. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? I've been running on there for a little bit. Let me expand that. Okay, no more questions just at the moment, so let me talk a few more things. Something we added recently, we have actions and triggers, and that allows you to send out, at the moment, send out emails based on certain criteria. So for example, we have a client that on a monthly basis does outreach to a section of their clients. So they want to basically send the client their specific form information and tell them, is this up to date? And they do that, they do it once a year for everyone, but they do it sort of monthly. And so they might want to send out a few thousand emails, the first of every month. And with these actions, we can have it look up, okay, which records were last processed in January. Okay, so send out that standard email template for could you please review and update your information, and include in it a link to their record, and then the system would automatically send out those few thousand emails, and then the users could use the link to come back and update their information, things like that. But we'll be adding more actions and triggers shortly as well. Oh yes, smartphones. Good question. So the whole GW Apps platform is what we call responsive. So it automatically reconfigures itself to work on desktop, laptop, or tablet, or a smartphone. Let me go back to the asset management application. So as you can see, this is laid out in two columns, and just to fake being on a smaller platform. So it's moved to a single column. And as I make it wider, you also notice the left-hand navigation has gone. As I make it wider, it went two column, and then when it got past another point, it added my navigation back. So however many columns you've got, 1, 2, 3, or 4, it will automatically reconfigure so that it's still functional on however much screen real estate that you have. And all of the functions, entering new records, all the workflow, submitting things, etc. Everything works just the same on any kind of web client, because it's a web application. As long as you have a modern web browser, it's going to work the same. It'll just lay itself out slightly differently for the different screen real estate, but you will be able to have all of the functionality, no matter if you're on a phone or a tablet or a full-size computer. Okay, let me show you a few other. Oops. Actually. So one nice thing for expense reports, the expense reporting, when you have something like an expense report or a stationery requisition, there are lots of business things like that. What you have is an indeterminate, unknown number of individual line items that go together to make one kind of request. So in an expense report, you went on a trip to Savannah, Georgia, for some conference. But obviously when you're there, you have, hotel, multiple taxis, multiple meals, etc. But you don't want to put in an expense report for each individual expense item. You have one report for the whole trip, but you need to be able to add an indeterminate number of line items. We have this capability of having a little embedded table, and I can add in as many individual line items as I want. And if you notice, as I add in information, it automatically totals. And you can see I have some validation on this field. It tells me $123,456 is more than you're allowed to expense. But $1,235 is okay. So that would have a range of uses for said stationery requisitions and expense reports. There are a lot of business processes like that. That's as much as I was planning on just demonstrating. So do we have any more questions?
Richard, just a comment that anyone interested in trying the product can go to register.gwapps.com. Need help, we're happy to assist them building the application.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you find that at all interesting, we would love to help you. Take a use case, help you very quickly build a sample app so you could see if it's something that could help you out. And we have a free trial, so that you could then have a play with it yourself and see how easy it is to build and modify your own apps. Okay, if there aren't any more questions, thank you very much for attending. Hopefully that was interesting, and yeah, we'd love to help you if that's something you're interested in. Have a good day or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.